I don't know the story of Jane Seberg well enough to know how accurate it is, but I'm gonna guess based on what I saw online, it is pretty accurate, and that is scary. Most specifically, they're trying to do this by sending his wife recordings, and you might think that's a little extreme. They wouldn't actually do that, but you'd be wrong. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me for yet another episode of the Everyman Movie Review. I don't know why I've been sitting on all of these, but we are going to talk about yet another political thriller this week in Seberg, the story of Jane Seberg and her visit to the U.S. that may have ruined her life. But before we get too far into it, let's get through the pleasantries, shall we? Seberg was directed by Benedict Andrews. It was written by Joel Shrapnel and Anna Waterhouse. It is starring Kristen Stewart as Jane Seberg, and I have some thoughts. I'll share those at the end. Jan Attal as Romain Gary. Gabriel Skye as his son Diego Gary. Jack O'Connell as Jack Solomon. Margaret Qualley as Lynette Solomon. Colm Meaney as Frank Elroy. Vince Vaughn as Carl Kowalski. Stephen Root as Walt Breckman. Anthony Mackey as Hakeem Jamal. And Zazie Beetz as Dorothy Jamal. So Seberg, like our previous movies, is based on a true story. I don't know the story of Jane Seberg well enough to know how accurate it is, but I'm gonna guess based on what I saw online, it is pretty accurate, and that is scary. So let's talk about why. Jane Seberg was an actress. She was known for French New Wave, and she was a star in Breathless, which is a Jean-Luc Godard film, and my voice did go up at the end there. I did a little look. It's Jean-Luc Godard's Breathless. And she is in an open relationship with Romain Gary and helping to raise his son in Paris. But after her success with Breathless, she wants to make a splash in Hollywood and maybe get back to the US. So she flies from Paris to LA to try and take some meetings and maybe see the next portion of her career in Hollywood. While on the flight, she witnesses some discrimination by the American stewardess towards Hakeem Jamal, who is a Black Panther leader, and she lightly defends him. But once arriving at the LA airport, she sees a group of protesters who are there because of the treatment of Hakeem Jamal and other Black Panthers as they flew. And a side note here that it's super interesting because had that flight been a French stewardess, she probably would have not seen anything. American stewardesses, slightly discriminatory against people based on their skin color. Everywhere else in the world, kind of over it. Maybe we should get with it, America. But once she sees that group protesting, she kind of joins the protest. She raises her fist in a Black Power salute. What she doesn't know is that the FBI is surveilling the protest, and they catch her there. And because they catch her there, now they think maybe she's involved with these Black Panthers. She ends up exchanging information with Hakeem Jamal. Nobody really knows who she is and doesn't know that she's kind of wealthy and kind of famous somewhere other than the US. And she says she wants to help with the movement, and of course they brush it off, but she follows up. So while she's in LA taking meetings for her future in Hollywood, she's also going down to Compton to where Hakeem Jamal has a breakfast program where he has a school and a daycare and basically donates money and then spends a lot of time with Hakeem Jamal. What she doesn't know is that now, because she's joined, essentially, in the eyes of the FBI, this group, the eyes and the focus and the ire of COINTELPRO have been focused on her. And they essentially say, we're going to ruin this woman. And why are they going to do that? Well, because a white actress who is American, but only really famous in French films, has dared to join these protests and give support and legitimacy to the Black Panther movement. The more time she spends with Hakeem Jamal, the more they seem to hit it off. She invites him to some parties where people who are like-minded like her can meet him, and maybe they'll make a donation as well. But that professional relationship turns very personal, and although it's fine for her in ways because she's in an open marriage, open relationship, he is also married, and it's not going to be all right with his wife. And that's about as far as I can go without giving too much away. So I'm going to cut away now to a spoiler section. If you want to skip the spoilers, go ahead and find the time down in the show notes below. But go now, because the spoilers are about to start right here. So there's a couple interesting things about what happens. One is that we get to see what COINTELPRO was really up to from the perspective of somebody who received it. Like, tapping phones, like constant surveillance, like having people come in your house to put in listening devices, and then when they don't work, coming back in a second time, and having people who are close to you, who you think are one person, absolutely not be them, but be undercover FBI agents who are just trying to get close to you. And again, all of this is because she is getting close to Hakeem Jamal, who is the leader of the Black Panthers. And as a reminder, COINTELPRO was basically organized just to destroy the black leftist movement in America, which was seen as communist, because it probably was, and that's fine. But at the same time, they were ignoring white nationalist movements that were talking about separation and the killing of people. Black nationalism, a problem, despite the fact that people just wanted equal rights. White nationalism, not a problem, as the body count continued to climb. So I guess Jane Seberg's major mistake was that she didn't run into a member of the KKK, because if she had, and she'd fallen in with them, everything would have been fine for her. Instead, they slowly start a campaign to tear her down. Now that's mentally and physically, because they're in her home, they're bothering her all the time, and they're also trying to rupture this kind of connection she has with Hakeem Jamal. Most specifically, they're trying to do this by sending his wife recordings of Seberg with Hakeem. And you might think, that's a little extreme, they wouldn't actually do that. But you'd be wrong, because they did the same thing to Martin Luther King Jr. They sent recordings of him with his mistresses, and that's not okay. I mean, it is what it is. He's a man, he's flawed, he makes mistakes. He doesn't have to be perfect to lead a movement to get civil rights. But they sent tapes of him with his mistress to his wife. And they sent it knowing that he wasn't there, but included a letter to make it seem like he was there, and in that letter told him to kill himself. So that's the kind of people that we're dealing with. And the people are masterfully portrayed by Stephen Root and Vince Vaughn, and like these guys who I love, and I'm just looking at them like, man, you guys are the worst. And that's the kind of reaction I really want to have from a movie, that the actors are so good, they're drawing me into their roles, and I forget how much I like them as people, and I start hating them because of the role that they're playing. But the one thing that Jane Seberg really wants is to get pregnant. She wants to have a child of her own. She enjoys Diego. She wants to help Romaine raise his son, but she also wants a baby of her own. There's a time period where Romaine is in LA, and then they both go to New York, and then she goes back to LA and he goes to Paris, and she finds out she's pregnant, and she could not be happier. But there are rumors spread that the child is not her husband's, but is in fact Hakeem Jamal's child. And then that child dies in infancy. So now she's got all the pressure of all of this news out there, this fake news about her and Hakeem and her baby, and then the baby dies. And Romaine is not up for all of this news coverage. He's fine with an open relationship as long as it's like their open relationship, not the world knows we're open. And all of that leads to basically her having a mental breakdown and removing herself from Hollywood. Now, what they don't really follow up with, well, they do, but in words at the end, text, not actually showing it, is that Jane Seberg continued to travel back and forth between Paris and Hollywood, trying to get this career started. But in 1979, she was found dead in Paris, and they believe that it was a suicide. There is evidence it could be an accidental overdose or maybe even a poisoning, but based on all of these events, it's likely that she just shut herself away and decided to commit suicide. So the American government, through the FBI, using COINTELPRO, drove a woman to the brink of a nervous breakdown, and then several years later, she committed suicide. Well, I'm proud to be an American. So yeah, I know the last few movies have kind of made you be like, Rob, what are you doing to me here? But that's the real world. And I mean, I've been politically active all of my life. I do a weekly podcast with my buddy Corey about politics and all those issues. And this is what's happening in the world. And you should be more aware if you're not. But we're at the end of the movie, and that means we're at the end of the spoilers. So let's bring everybody back in. And I have some final thoughts about the actors and the story and everything. And I'll include all of those and wrap up the review right now. So I think I got a little too worked up at the end of the spoiler section there. If you didn't check it out after you do go watch the movie, if you do, go check out the spoilers because it was pretty good. But I said I wanted to wrap on some thoughts, and my first thought is about Kristen Stewart. I, like most of you, met Kristen Stewart for the first time in the Twilight series, and, you know, her character was supposed to be detached and emotional and a teen, and she left something to be desired with that. And then I've seen her in a couple of things that I really liked her in, and I felt like she really felt the character. She was in it. And then I see things that she's not. She feels very disconnected, and I'm like watching someone act, and I really hate that. I saw her most recently in Charlie's Angels, which was a good movie, and her character was supposed to be emotionally detached, and so it kind of fit. So coming into this, I wasn't sure what to expect from Kristen Stewart, but unfortunately, I got the actress who I seem to be watching act, and I'm not a fan of that. And more than anything else, that was what took me out of the movie. I think Anthony Mackey did a great job. There is this scene where Zazie Beetz, as Dorothy Jamal, Hakeem's wife, confronts Gene Seberg, and there is so much fire and emotion coming out from Dorothy, from Zazie, and it's just hitting a flat wall on the other side. And I don't know that much about Jane Seberg. I don't know if that is how she was. If she was like emotionally flat, and that's why they went with Kristen Stewart, because she can do that so well. And maybe that's my fault and I should have known more, but just to see the dynamic acting. One thing I did say during the spoilers is that Vince Vaughn, Stephen Root, just in their characters so much that I forgot how much I liked those guys, and I really hated those guys as those characters. And that is a high bar to reach, but it's a bar I love for movies. When I could say, I said the same thing about JGL. When I am looking at JGL, like, man, I hate you, even though, in the Chicago 7, even though I love him. I love everything he's in. And in fact, I love him in Chicago 7 because he brought that kind of emotion out of me. Stephen Root, Vince Vaughn, they're doing the same thing in Seberg. So you have that. You've got Anthony Mackey with another actor playing Bobby Seale, and they're just, I'm in it with them. I'm like in the struggle, like, let's do this. I'm seeing the good stuff that the Black Panthers are doing, and I'm like, finally, we're seeing the good side of the Black Panthers on film. And in between these two people, in between the FBI, COINTELPRO, and the Black Panthers is this white spot. And that's all I'm getting from her. Just, she's not even reflecting back the emotion that's given to her. There is a scene with her and Hakeem that is so passionate. It's like we are finally overcome with these feelings for each other, and we just have to act on it. And all I can see is Anthony Mackey's audition video, where they have some girl who's not going to get the part bouncing off of him just so he can say his lines and give his part of it. It just takes me so out of the movie. And I want to say that overall, the movie was really good. I think it was well written. It's confusing at parts, but confusing in a kind of a good way where you're just like, I can't believe that any of this is true. And I sometimes Kristen seems to overreact to the situation. And again, that may be how Jane Seberg acted. I don't know. Sometimes she seems to underreact. Like, there's a moment where she's like banging on the phone and she's like, I heard a click, they're tapping the phone. And on the trailer, that looks amazing. In the movie, you're like, she went from 0 to 100 in that moment, and then from 100 to 0. It's too much. It's too much. Fantastically, the movie looks great. She's got this amazing house with these glass walls and this pool, and they have parties there, and we're there a lot. It looks amazing. The acting is amazing. The writing was amazing. And in the middle of all of it, the sun that is holding this whole solar system together is just so boring. I didn't want to finish watching it. So it is rare for me to say there is a movie with Stephen Root or there is a movie with Vince Vaughn. And I think I have done reviews with both of them in roles. And Vince Vaughn comes to mind because of Cell Block 99. Brawl in Cell Block 99, we did a review of that. That movie blew me away. And the way that he acted in that was so good. Anthony Mackey, who you know from the Avengers, and is so good in this movie. And I cannot believe I'm saying this, but this is a skip it. I can't believe with that crew, with that script, with this movie, I'm saying skip it, but I was so bored for most of it. I'm like sitting and waiting for someone else to come in. And Romain Gary is played by a French actor who I don't recognize, but he does an okay job. But I also think that there's something in there about him being French and he's emotionally detached and the whole nine. Just, I'm like, let's get Jamal back, or let's go see what the bad guys are doing, because I can't with this. I actually got to the point that the movie ended and I did not realize, because I was working on other stuff, and I had to back up 15 minutes and say, Rob, pay attention. Let's finish watching this movie. And it's such a good story. The story of Jane Seberg is amazing. But I just couldn't with this. And I want to give Kristen Stewart another chance. I want to find something that she's in. There's a movie where she's stuck underwater, and I'm feeling like that one could either be really good or really bad, but it's probably going to be one of those that is based on how good she is, and I want to give her a shot because that's fictional, not based on a real woman, and however she plays that is probably her. So I might do that. But I can't in good conscience tell you to spend your 2 hours watching Seberg, despite the fact that it's a great script with a great acting crew and great scenes and everything, because just the way I felt after, I felt like, thank God that movie's done. And I never want to feel like that coming out of a movie, and I never want you to hear me recommend a movie that's how you feel coming out of it. So if you particularly like Kristen Stewart and you don't mind the things that really bug me about her, you'll probably really like this movie. If you, like me, am a huge fan of Stephen Root and Vince Vaughn and Anthony Mackey, or you're a huge fan of political stories, especially ones that involve the Black Panthers and the FBI and COINTELPRO and all of that, this is going to be a movie that you're going to want to watch. Without that, for most people, this is a skip it. So do. But if it does apply to you that you want to see this movie, there's a link down below in the show notes where you can go watch it. It's streaming online right now. You'll also find links to the social media for Everyman Movie Reviews. If you're looking for me personally, it's at Robert N. Cheek on all your social networks, robertncheek.com, where you can find more information about me and the projects that I'm working on even after we wrap on these episodes on December 31st. And I hate giving a bad review, but I am excited that I will be back in just a few days with yet another review for you. But until then, please take care of yourselves and each other. Have a great week, everybody.